Hi, Jakey Stief here, the long-haired freaky dude. Today I'm going to show you the basic tools that you need to start fossil hunting. Now, a lot of people have this misconception that fossil hunting requires a lot of money, that it takes a lot of time, and that you need to be in a specific place to do it. Well, that's not really the case. Fossil hunting, the tools for it are really cheap, maybe even no money at all. I mean, it's probably a lot of stuff that you have around your house as it is. And as for age, you could do it at just about any age. It's something that a little kid could do. It's that easy. And as for location, there's tons of fossil locations all over America. Heck, in road croppings, on the side of the road, in the dirt, in creeks. Fossils are everywhere. You just have to know where to look. Now, a lot of the tools I show in this video, there's a lot of tools. So you do not by any means need all of these tools. These are just recommendations, things which might help you in certain situations, but they won't apply to every situation. So really, you just need the most basic tools to get started and build your collection, so to say, from there. So the two most necessary tools that you'll need are your eyes and your hands. That is really all that you need to get started. It is that simple. A lot of fossils, they're out on the surface, they're already free of the rock or the matrix that they were attached to, and you can just easily scoop them up and take them home with you. It's that simple. You just have to know where to look and where it is legal to do these things. Now, if you want to know where it's okay to fossil hunt, where it's legal, where are the best places, I'll post a video for that. It's going to be kind of hard because it's really different for each region of the world. I mean, it's different wherever you're at. The laws are different, the types of fossils that you find will be different. So it's really something that I'll have to teach you to do on your own. Do your own research. I will not be liable for any illegal mistakes that you might make. But believe me, the law is very lax on fossil hunters in a lot of states as long as you know what you're doing. The first three tools which I use the most. I use probably 99% of the time out of all of the other tools. I call these the Holy Trinity, or the miracle of my paleontologist kit. And the first of these is the rock pick, or the geologist pick. I mean, not only is it very, very cool, I mean, it gives you the official feel of a paleontologist. You are like the Indiana Jones of paleontologists once you have a rock pick. This is their stereotypical tool. But it's also the most useful. It's a multitasker. You can use it to smash rock, you can use it to dig through dirt, you can use it to scrape things, and it really works on all terrain, whether you're in mud, in creeks, or you're smashing away at a very tough, rock face. It works for all of these occasions. A great multitasker to have on hand, will work for almost any occasion. And this is probably the only tool which you actually need to buy. You probably have most of the other ones on hand. This will cost no more than $30, so it's not that bad. Definitely worth the buy. And I recommend the brand Estwing. You could actually find this at a lot of your hardware stores. But if not, you can order online. It's not going to be that big of a deal. Estwing, rock pick, geologist pick. Definitely a must-have for any aspiring paleontologist. The second most used tool in my kit is the crack hammer. It's just a hammer with a very big metallic head. You probably have one of these lying around as well. If not, I'm sure your neighbor or your friend who's a mechanic has a crack hammer. It's just great for smashing into big, tough rocks, splitting them apart, trying to find stuff inside of them. You do a lot of rock breaking and fossil hunting. Well, depending on your terrain, sometimes it's muddy stuff you're sifting through, sometimes it's sand. But in my case, I have to break a lot of big rocks. So this crack hammer, it works where the Estwing doesn't, because this has a small hammerhead, this is bigger, so it's going to apply more force. It's going to be easier to break that bigger, harder stuff. You can get different sizes as well. Just be careful how you use this, because it is a blunt force weapon. It's going to break stuff, so make sure that you aren't breaking any delicate fossils along the way. And I also find that this works for different occasions. It's a bell peen hammer, mainly used for metalworking, but I actually find that it works quite well for various occasions in fossil hunting. It breaks rocks in different ways than the crack hammer, so it gives me different variety with how I can, craft my rock and free my fossil. The third most used tool in my paleontologist kit is the chisel. You use this to break rocks in more specific ways. The crack hammer, it's going to be very random. It's not going to be nowhere near as controlled breakage as your chisel. So this is for pretty much whenever you find a fossil, you see it there, and you want to free it from a larger rock matrix so it's easier to take home with you. Now, you can have a variety of chisels, different sizes. They can you see how this one is tapered on both ends? You can have a chisel which is tapered on only one end. They work for different occasions whenever you're breaking through your rock. But I find it most convenient just to have, one or two on hand and just use the different size ones to clean up the fossil when I get home. It's not necessary to have really more than one chisel in the field, at least from my experience. You also want to make sure, very important, that your chisel is cold-tempered. Cold-tempered chisels have a much more durable crystal structure at the molecular level. So it's less likely to break. It's going to be much less brittle, and it's going to be a lot easier to break through that harder rock, something that which your regular chisel won't be able to do. Now, most of your chisels at home probably aren't cold-tempered, so you want to make sure of that, and if not, buy one. Again, pretty cheap. This is probably like $4 or $5. Find it at your local hardware store. Now, this next set of tools, these are my secondary tools. I don't really use these nearly as much, but they work for different various occasions. So I usually have at least some of these, at least in the truck with me, or in the car with me whenever I go fossil hunting, but I never bring them into the field unless I know they're going to be absolutely necessary. First of these is a shovel. I mean, you might have to be moving a lot of dirt out of the way, a lot of dirt or sand, or some gravel, so it's useful to have a shovel so that you can accomplish that and get all of that out of your way easily. Now, if you're fossil hunting on public land, which is legal in some locations, you probably don't want to be using the shovel because that could be classified as, a mass operation, which could have some legal repercussions. So you don't want that. Just stick with the three main tools if you aren't sure of the legality of where you're fossil hunting. Because if you're a private collector, just doing it as a hobby, most places aren't going to care. But once you get in heavy-duty tools like a big old shovel, that's when you start to get a bit shaky. Second useful tool is a sledgehammer. Again, just like the shovel, used with caution. Not just for the legality, but also for the preservation of your fossil. This is gonna just smash to smithereens whatever it hits. So it's really, if you have a really large chunk of rock you want to break, or just a huge rock face you want to smash into it just to tear all of that matrix away and start fresh with a new layer. Other than that, I really don't use the sledgehammer, except for very rare occasions. It's better to be more careful with your fossil hunting. Third is a pickaxe. This is a more useful tool. It's sort of like a combination of the sledgehammer and the shovel. It's useful for scraping through dirt, for smashing rocks, for breaking apart things. It's a good multitasker. It's something good to have around. Next are the crowbars. It's good to have some crowbars around because you will be messing with some big boulders. So if you need to move things out of the way, this will give you the leverage to do so. Definitely recommend having a crowbar on hand. Now, something like a mini spade, something like this, or a collapsible military type one like this, that's always good to have around. You can move small amounts of dirt around. You can sort of sift through things, see if you can find something. And most people aren't going to question you using a shovel. It's not going to be termed some sort of mass operation. So, a little spade works where the big shovel does not. A brush. Sometimes it can be really hard to see fossils, especially whenever they're in piles of dirt or whenever they're still attached to rocks. So you need to clean some of that debris off to make things more visible. And it's also a very safe way to do things. It's not going to destroy your fossil. It's very delicate. I like that. In fossil hunting, delicacy is key. And on the topic of revealing fossils and making them more visible, a spritz bottle. A spritz bottle is always something decent to have on hand. Some fossils are actually much more visible whenever they're wet. So just if we're in the area you're working, just spritz it with a little bit of water, and I guarantee you that things will become much more visible. It'll be a lot easier to work, a lot easier to find what you're looking for. No, so that covers the secondary tools. Next up is the safety gear. This is a must. You always have to be safe, okay? So even if you're going without any of the aforementioned tools, bring safety gear, okay? We don't want any injuries, we don't want any deaths. Probably the most important of these is a hard hat. A lot of places where you go fossil hunting, especially in my area, are around tall rock faces, rocks which tower way above your head level, and that means rocks could fall on top of your head and smash in your brains, which is not the goal of fossil hunting, okay? You gotta be the one smashing the rocks, not the other way around. To prevent this, a hard hat. Any time that you're around rocks which are going to be taller than you. A hard hat's nice, but I like to use a baseball helmet, simply because I had a baseball helmet longer before I had a hard hat. It works. A lot more people have some sort of sports helmet. And also, look how awesome this is. It's customized. It's got a very angry baseball showing his teeth and my name. How cool is that? And it's a bit more comfy. It has that padding on the inside. Next most important is eyewear. A lot of the times you'll be wearing sunglasses because it's so bright. But if not, bring safety glasses, okay? Whenever you're breaking rocks, there are splinters which are flying everywhere. And one of those splinters can hit you in the eye and, potentially cause damage. So just bring eye protection, okay? It is a must. There's stuff flying around everywhere when you're smashing into things with your hammer. Next is hand protection. Choose whatever gloves you like. These work gloves, they're nice for protecting your entire hand. They prevent you from getting dirty. But if you're fossil hunting, getting dirty shouldn't be a concern because, fossil hunting's dirty. It's fun and dirty. That's what we like about it. So I don't really like these gloves. They limit my finger movement. I don't have as much control over things, especially with smaller fossils. So these fingerless gloves, fingerless leather gloves. Oh, I love these. These work all the time wherever I'm fossil hunting, and they look like super cool. So I recommend the fingerless gloves, but if you want to go full finger, that's up to you. That's your preference. All right, well, we're moving right along here, folks. That covers the safety aspect. Fossil hunting isn't that dangerous, so you don't need too many safety things, just protecting your head if necessary. I mean, if you're in a creek, you don't need headgear. Just gloves and eyeglasses. Or if you're fossil hunting on the beach, just looking through sand for stuff, I mean, you don't even need any of this. As long as you aren't breaking anything. Now the next set of tools are things which you will need to log data. If you want your fossil to have any scientific value whatsoever, you need to log data about it. Where you find it, what type of rock it was found in, etc. That way it has some sort of value in the scientific community. If you're just looking for stuff so it looks cool, you don't need to really worry about this section, okay? Well, actually, I will have some things in here to help you better carry your fossil home as well to make sure it doesn't break, so, stay tuned. As for carrying fossil away, always carry a bundle of newspaper with you. You can just wrap your fossil up in this. It makes it 10 times more safer to carry. It's going to be a lot less likely to break. Glue, this is useful, especially if your fossil breaks, if you find it broken. You can reassemble the pieces. Not something you typically want to do in the field, but if it is necessary, it's good to have on hand. Notebook and pencil. Like I said, take down as many notes about your fossil where you find it as possible. The more information you have on it, the better it is, the more useful it'll be to the scientific community. If you're new to this and you want your fossils to have some sort of scientific value, and you aren't really sure what to log down, bring a camera. Take photos of the surrounding area. You can always share them with a fellow paleontologist. There's some great forums online where you can post photos and ask questions, and they will answer what you need to know. So if you are unsure of information to log, take photos. It will save you. Ziploc bags, self-explanatory. Put your small fossil specimens in here. If you don't want to wrap them up in newspaper, works just as well. Or if you want to bring home like a bag of dirt and sift through it later on, sometimes there's fossils which are very loose in soil. Just take home a scoop or two of soil and sift through it. Bag's great for holding that. It's also good to always have a map with you. If not a state map to log where you find things, if you find a good fossil place, you want to be able to come back to it. But it's also good to have a topographical map. Sometimes you go way off the trail in order to find a good fossil place. And if that's the case, you want to be able to find your way back, but you also want to be able to find that fossil place again in the future. Topographical maps, you can find them online. Heck, you can probably find them on Google these days. So print one of those out before you go. Save yourself and to save your fossil location. Now, as for carrying these tools in the field, like I said, a lot of times I find myself just using 3 tools, really, most of the time. The crack hammer, the chisel, and the rock pick. So a tool belt is really the most useful thing in my case. But if you're getting more hefty, you want to bring more things, a tool bag works for at least getting you there to your fossil location. And for carrying the fossils back, I like a satchel on hand. Not only does it look uber cool like Indiana Jones style, or, you know, something from Jurassic Park, you know, where you put the velociraptor eggs, yes, but it's easy to carry around. I don't know, I just like something draped around my shoulder like that. It's much more convenient. It's also a great place to store food and snacks. One of the most important things in fossil hunting, especially if you're making this an all-day thing, is staying hydrated. You want plenty of water no matter where you're at, no matter what the terrain is. I don't care how moist it is, how cold or how hot it is. Bring plenty of water. A lot of people like a hydration pack, especially if you're walking around far from the car. It's nice and convenient, you know, you have a little slurpy thing. But I prefer a cool little canteen like this. Drapes around the shoulder, and it has that really awesome, cool looking factor, which I like about the satchel and the rock pick. And of course the hat. Just doesn't look as cool as a hydration pack. So that's why I use the canteen. It's also a 1-gallon canteen, which is very nice. So I can bring plenty of water, not just for myself, but for other people coming along on this fossil hunting trip with me. And again, I find it much more convenient with things draped around my side. I can just easily you know, pick it up and... Same with the satchel and the toolkit, tool belt. Well, that concludes pretty much about the tools, the basic tools that you'll need. You know, feel free to explore, try other things out, try things out which work for you, for your situation. Every scenario, every rock scenario is going to require different tools. So if you can think of something that'll work better, by all means use it. These are not things which are set in stone like your fossils that you're getting, okay? Just be creative, you know, wherever you're going, you might need different tools. Like, you know, if it's summertime around where I'm at, there's going to be a lot of greenery. So a machete, it helps me cut some of that away. Perhaps an axe, a small little work axe, maybe like a little tomahawk like that. I have had times where there's like a big tree or like a root wrapped around the fossil that I want, so it's easy to just hack that away. You know, have good shoes. Sometimes it's going to be rugged, rocky terrain. You want good boots, maybe waterproof shoes if you're in a stream. Or, you know, if you're on the beach, heck, flip-flops. Flip-flops are fine, but dress for the occasion. Be prepared for whatever comes your way. And it's always best to overdress, especially if where your fossil hunting is going to be really cold. Always overdressed. You can always strip layers off later. We don't want you freezing to death now, okay? You know, headgear. I find that this full brim kangaroo leather hat works for most occasions where I don't need my helmet. But this floppy hat works too, especially whenever it's really hot out. So, you know, just dress whatever works best for you, whatever works for wherever you're fossil hunting. It's going to be different for each person, for each location. So you really have to decide to build your own paleontologist kit, but these are the basic tools. They'll work for most situations. You know, back whenever I was a little kid, I always wanted to do some fossil hunting. I always wanted to find a dinosaur or something that just lived millions and millions of years ago, but I never did it because I thought it was something hard. I thought it was something you had to go to school and college for. Simply not the case. Most cases are you can do fossil hunting pretty much wherever you're at, no matter what your age is. Just one day I was sitting there, I was like, man, back whenever I was younger, I used to really want to become a paleontologist. I was like, I wonder how one does this. So I just looked it up and boom, what do you know? It's real easy. So later on in the future, when I get more videos out, I'm going to help you fulfill your childhood dream of fossil hunting. Well, I hope that this tutorial was useful to you. If you want to see more tutorials in the future, like how to actually do some fossil hunting, how to use these tools, how to find locations, you know, for fossil hunting, feel free to check out my channel. Please hit the subscribe button. There will be more great tutorials in the future. Well, I'm Stief, the long-haired freaky dude. Thank you for watching. Be sure to have a great day.